Yeah, so we also touched on some other men as well. So we looked at Abraham, a man of faith, a man that interceded for a city, interceded for Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
So just kind of interesting, while he was waiting on a promise, which was his son Isaac, that he had the encounter with the Lord, stopped by his tent, which is awesome.
Don't
mind if I do.
He was just, he was going about day-to-day life. There's nothing really indicates that there was anything, necessarily special about that day. The Lord shows up and just comes by his tent.
Yeah.
And then they have this discussion where he talks about it. He does confirm that Abraham will have a son. He's confirming that the promise is there. But then he's also, wanting to let Abraham know he came by as well for intercession on behalf of Sodom and Gomorrah. And so, Abraham, I'm sure he was very familiar with that city. And he made intercession on behalf instead of saying, well, Lord, why don't you just go ahead and destroy it all,
Yeah.
He didn't do that. Instead, but he did and said, well, Lord, he calls on the Lord's righteousness and faithfulness, the Lord's mercy, compassion. He brings out different attributes about the Lord in that. And then, of course, there when they part ways, the Lord, he got him down to 10, which was incredible. But now, of course, it does speak to the city of Sodom and Gomorrah as well. There wasn't even 10 people there that were following the Lord. And there was 4 cities total that were, obliterated in that. But yeah, so we learned a little bit about Abraham, and then we looked at other different characters, for example, Gideon, and we also looked at Samson as well. So some men, that had some, some big flaws, but in the end, that didn't hinder the Lord's plan in their life and through their life.
Right.
So that's encouraging.
It is encouraging, yes, because we're all broken vessels, and He still chooses to use us.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And that's not the end of the story.
No, it's not the end of the story.
Failures.
Well, we actually talked a little bit about that too. That looking at especially Gideon and Samson, because it looks like, especially there for Samson, that his life, just the way it ends, of course.
Yeah.
He outstretches his arms. He pushes down these pillars, of course, killing a lot of his enemies that are there and gloating over his captivity, and they're mocking him, having a good time and everything along that line, of course, until he collapses the whole thing. It seems that that's the end of his story, but actually the end of his story is in Hebrews 11, of where he is listed as a man of great faith.
Yes.
And so is Gideon as well. Again, Gideon, he leads such a great victory, but then it says that he took some of the gold and he made I think it was like an ephod or an idol or something, and it says it was a snare to Israel. And so he has a really great turning point. He's turned to the Lord. The Lord has built his faith up. He's seen a great victory. But then there towards the end, he has, unfortunately, I would say maybe a backsliding a little bit.
Yeah.
But again, that's not the end. The end is Hebrews 11, where he's listed as a man of great faith, which is interesting.
Yes.
There's a lot of people in there that are just like, wow, Samson's in there?
I know.
Yeah.
I did a study of
good.
that with my son's friends, and it was like when COVID happened, we were like, oh, we'll do FaceTime or whatever, Bible study. And so I was just like, I'll teach through all of the men in Hebrews 11, like all of these people who made it in that walk.
Right.
And it is amazing because you would think, oh, these people will be perfect, especially if you hadn't read the Bible, but every single one of us except Jesus in the Bible is flawed.
That's
and it's encouraging because you are going to make mistakes, you are going to fall, and that doesn't mean that your story is over, and that doesn't mean that God's not going to use you in a mighty way.
Exactly.